ओम परतत्वे सदा लीनो रामकृष्णसमाज्ञया यो धर्मस्थापनरतो वीरेशं तं नमाम्यहम्. We have been studying here Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga, and we are in the third chapter called Maya and Illusion. And if we see from the beginning, in the necessity of religion, Swamiji taught us that without the struggle to go beyond the senses and seek the infinite, man's life is incomplete. And the result of going beyond the senses or searching for the infinity will be an unit abstraction. Either the personal God of the monotheist or the supreme Brahman or moral law or whatever it is, unit abstraction. And then in the next chapter, the real nature of man, based upon Kathopanishad, Swamiji confronted us with the fact of death and then asked, is this the end of everything? So, the body is not the end of everything. Within the body there is a mind, but mind also has a form, a shape. So that also cannot be the final reality. So we reach a self or soul or Atman or the consciousness, and we feel there is an individual consciousness. But the characteristics of consciousness, because it is not material, because it has no form, it has to be infinite, and that alone can be infinite, which is one without a second. So there cannot be my Atman, your Atman and all that. These stand only as superstitions. And so we come across the one reality of the whole universe, which is our real nature. And then how to realize it? It is practical. It has the highest utility. This Swamiji has shown. And then we come with this question comes. Why is it that what we see, why we see the unreal, why we do not see the real? That is the next question. And there, Swamiji has said various attempts were made. Indro Maya Bhi Pururupa Yate, something like magic created by God. And the Buddhists thought it is our own subjective superimposition, subjective imagination. So it is neither illusion nor delusion. Only in the Shvatashvatar Upanishad and only in the Shankar's commentary, Swamiji has told us the correct idea of Maya is given. And that correct idea of Maya, by the introduction of Shankar to the Brahma Sutras we have found, is that it is a statement of fact. Though consciousness and matter can have no connection, consciousness cannot be superimposed on matter, matter cannot be superimposed on consciousness, the characteristics of consciousness cannot be superimposed on matter, and the characteristics of matter cannot be superimposed on consciousness by any logic whatsoever. And yet, what is the fact of our experience? What is our life? Amidam mamedamiti naisargikoyam loka vyavahara. So the reality and the unreal, we have mixed up, we have coupled it up. And so the result is a wrong knowledge. And this wrong knowledge says, I am this body, or my body, my mind, my people, my world. So this I and mine results, which is a self-created, pre-existing superimposition. This is the fact of life, that our consciousness today is like this, that I am this body, etc. And I am a subject living in the world of objects. That is the result of this consciousness. So I am the consciousness, I consciousness, somehow associated with this body and the mind. And it is wrong. And the consciousness of the sages who have found in the real nature of man itself is that it is a one reality, it is a one consciousness, The question is why we are not aware of that. And the answer is that because we are running after the sense enjoyments. Because Swamiji has shown the three principles of Maya. There are Swamiji's important statements. Anyway, because we are running after the senses, a sort of mist has been created between us and the reality. And then Swamiji says details do not serve any purpose if the theory is wrong. And so, when we come to the principles, the Indians could make a bold statement. That means they could easily go beyond this experience and find out the meaning. And so, our life is a contradiction in terms, and this Swamiji is showing through practical examples. Through practical examples, Swamiji is showing how it is a fact of life. And he showed in the matter of where we are going, we do not know. Life has become a drift. From where we come, we do not know. Where we are going, we do not know. There is no rest. And this is Maya. And then optimism and pessimism always oscillates, and this is Maya. And then Swamiji came to that example of mother and the child. People call it unselfish love, but Swamiji shows it is morbid attachment. She cannot give up the child. Though the child has become a blackguard and kicks her attachment, and we call it great. That is Maya, contradiction. Now from there we pick up and proceed. We are all after the golden fleece. You know what is golden fleece? In the Greek mythology, there is a ram and who has golden wings and golden this and that, impossible things. But we think that we shall get it. We are always chasing the golden fleece, Swamiji says. That means we are all after the golden fleece. Every one of us thinks that this will be his. This will be his. What? Fortune. Every reasonable man sees that his chance is perhaps 1 in 20 millions. Yet everyone struggles for it, and this is Maya. Let me talk about this chance. Lottery, we see, lottery. And mathematically it can be proved that the only winners are those who make that lottery. Those who have created that lottery, they are earners. Nobody else is an earner. Because Swamiji is telling, suppose 20 million people are playing the lottery and one man will win. So that is our chance, and yet we will chase that. Everything in life is like that. We will get that. I will tell you a funny story. Medical science, please don't mind doctors. One person had some problem, so he went to a surgeon. And doctors, and they said that surgery must be done. Then he said that, what is the probability that it will be successful? They said, we will surely succeed in your case. He said, no, but what is the general probability? They said, 1 in 100. Then how do you say that it will surely succeed in my case? Because 99 have died in my hands. So you are the hundreds, you will be saved. So which of that 100 way do you know? So this is our life. Chasing impossible dreams, and then again Swamiji brings in death. And this is Maya, the contradiction. Though we know that the chance is 1 in 20 million, we think it will be ours. It will be yours, 1 in 20 million. Death is stalking day and night over this earth of ours. But at the same time we think we shall live eternally. We think means every action of ours betrays the fact that we shall live eternally. I referred to a story that day that Swamiji is quoting here. A question was once asked of King Yudhishthir. What is the most wonderful thing on this earth? And the king replied, every day people are dying around us, every day. And yet men think they will never die. And this is Maya. Why this? This is Maya. Statement of fact. There is no how or why in this. This is statement of fact. That we see all around us death and we feel we live. These tremendous contradictions in our intellect, in our knowledge, yes, in all the facts of our life, face us on all sides. All the facts of our life, these contradictions we can see. Swamiji has quoted here in intellect, in knowledge. Now see some field. A reformer arises and wants to remedy the evils that are existing in a certain nation. And before they have been remedied, 1,000 other evils arise in another place. See the continuous history. It is like an old house that is falling. You patch it up in one place and the ruin extends to another. Swamiji is giving an example. In India, the reformers cry and preach against the evils of enforced widowhood. In Swamiji's time, that was the greatest cry in society. In the West, non-marriage is the great evil. Girls are not getting husbands. Help the unmarried on one side, they are suffering. Help the widows on the other, they are suffering. It is like chronic rheumatism. You drive it from the head and it goes to the body. You drive it from there and it goes to the feet. One type of reform. Second type of reform. Contradiction Swamiji is showing. Reformers arise and preach that learning, wealth and culture should not be in the hands of a select few. And they do their best to make these accessible to all. Swamiji including, These may bring more happiness to some, but perhaps as culture comes, physical happiness lessens. The knowledge of happiness brings the knowledge of unhappiness. Which way then shall we go? The least amount of material prosperity that we enjoy is causing the same amount of misery elsewhere. The wealth goes from one person to another. We cannot create new wealth. There is a beautiful story in India. A man, a rich man, was worshipping in a Shiva temple. And a beggar used to sit in front of that temple every day. And he heard, that rich man heard, talk between the gods. And Parvati is telling Shiva, you see that beggar sits, how much devoted he is, and every day he is sitting, and you are not looking after him. Shiva says, what can I do? That is his fate. No, you must do something. So Shiva tells Ganpati, see that that man gets 1 lakh rupees tomorrow. Ganpati says, okay. Now this is heard by that rich man. So he is surprised. He comes to that beggar and says, how much do you get? He says, every day I may get a few cents. At the most, I am talking in the modern language, at the most $1. Never more than that, never more than that. Then he thinks, let me make a business with you. I will give you 25,000 rupees if what you get tomorrow you give to me. That man thought he is joking. Said, no, I won't give. Then he raised it to 50,000, 75,000. Then the man thought, the joke is going too far, let me agree. So he said, all right. So 75,000, that rich man was sure he is going to get 1 lakh rupees. So 75,000 he arranged to send to that poor man's cottage. And now nothing is coming. From days observing, nothing. 1 cent, 2 cents. Then he enters the temple. And he is praying to Ganesha again and again. I heard yesterday why you are not fulfilling that. And then there was a talk between Shiva and Parvati. So Parvati is asking Shiva, what have you done? I requested you. He said, I told it to Ganpati, he will be managing. Then he asked Ganpati, what have you done? Now that rich man, again and again worshipping and praying, his hand got stuck up in Ganpati's trunk. Ganpati is telling, 75,000 I arranged, and for 25,000 I held his hand. He says, send 25,000 to his house now, otherwise your hands cannot be released. Do we create money? We shift money from one person to another. So that is what happens. And we are now at a loss to understand in the world politics whether China wants more money or American rich man wants more money, who is playing the tricks. But one person will get, others will suffer. Once I was talking to a brilliant student. After BSc Chemistry, he did MBA Finance. And I asked him, what is this MBA Finance? He described to me for about 1 hour and I understood that your company should gain, other company should lose. That is medical finance, financial MBA. Take any company for example. As I know, Coca-Cola. Suppose they have priced their product at 7 rupees. And in a village or a small town, somebody is selling a better cold drink for 6 rupees. They will go and open a shop there and sell it to 5 rupees. They can apparently bear the loss for some time. People will not purchase from that man. People will purchase 5 rupees. And that man will lose his business. And then they will say, sell your business to us. And after they get that business, they will raise the price to 8 rupees. That is uniformly happening throughout the world, please. In order to make one man rich, others are becoming poor. And now industrialization, today's news was there. Due to mechanical growth, so many lakhs of people will lose their job because machines are doing that job. So if you increase wealth, you are removing the wealth from somebody, and yet we call it progress. We call it economic progress. And so, this is what is Maya. This is a fact. Not only about money, Learning, wealth and culture should be with all. But then the physical happiness reduces. The least amount of material prosperity that we enjoy is causing the same amount of misery elsewhere. That is what I told just now. This is the law. The young perhaps do not see it clearly, perhaps some people do see. But those who have lived long enough and those who have struggled enough will understand it, and this is Maya. These things are going on day and night, and to find a solution of this problem is impossible. Why should it be so? It is impossible to answer this because the question cannot be logically formulated. People say that Indians cannot explain Maya. You ask a question, then you will explain. And the question has no why, no how. Only this is going on, statement of fact. So Swamiji says, remember again Shankar's commentary, consciousness has nothing to do with matter. Matter has nothing to do with consciousness. Yet, can you tell how? Can you tell how? It is a statement of fact that we feel we are the body, that we feel it is my body, we feel this is my subject, and then we praise a genius in a subject like anything. And what happens by that? What does he gain? Nothing. Zero. So, this, how to formulate the question? The question cannot be logically formulated. You tell about the consciousness and matter, can you form the question? There is neither how nor why in fact. Fact is a fact. We only know that it is and that we cannot help it. Even to grasp it, to draw an exact image of it in our own mind is beyond our power. I told you the story that some experts were invited to Calcutta, and after 6 months they said God is there. Because we cannot understand even the problems, the complexity of the problems, and yet Calcutta is running, so it is God who is arranging. No human mind, no super computer can understand the world's problems. I remember a book, Vitrim Sorokin, a great sociologist, and he wrote a book. In that he showed 3 main political currents are there: democracy, capitalism, and communism. We call it socialism. And he showed their internal defects are there. In democracy, internal defects are there. In capitalism, internal defects are there. In socialism, internal defects are there. So, they are naturally ruined. And does man learn from history? What we learn from history? That man does not learn from history. You read, so-and-so king made this treaty with another king. And there were flaws in the treaty. After some years, another king fights another king, and he also made the same treaty again. So where is the solution? We had the League of Nations, now we are UNO. Who can solve the problems? Impossible. How can we solve it then? Maya is a statement of the fact of this universe, of how it is going on. So it is not avoiding the answer, it is a fact. We do not know. We cannot know. People generally get frightened when these things are told to them because they want their happiness, they don't care about the others. But we must be. Bold is to understand the truth. Bold is to go beyond this world. Hiding facts is not the way to find a remedy. As you all know, a hare hunted by dogs puts his head down and thinks itself safe. He does not see the world, but world is seeing him. And that is what is our avoiding the problem. So when we run into optimism, we do just like that air. But that is no remedy. There are objections against this, against the theory of Maya. But you may remark that they are generally from people who possess many of the good things of life. So they say that there is no problem, we have good things. What about others? In this country, England, it is very difficult to become a pessimist. In those days, everyone tells me how wonderfully the world is going on, how progressive. But what he himself is his own world. Old questions arise. Swamiji is showing one great fact. Christianity must be the only true religion of the world because Christian nations are prosperous. That is how they were preaching. But that assertion contradicts itself because the prosperity of the Christian nations depends on the misfortunes of non-Christian nations. There must be some to prey on. Suppose the whole world were to become Christian, then the Christian nations would become poor because there would be no non-Christian nation for them to prey upon. Thus the argument kills itself. Another fact Swamiji is showing. Animals are living upon plants, men upon animals, and worst of all upon one another. That is by cheating the other you are getting what you want. The strong upon the weak. This is going on everywhere and this is Maya. Statement of fact. Contradiction in life. What solution do you find for this? We hear every day many explanations and are told that in the long run all will be good. Hope. We find in India, if you travel by trains to the countryside, in very big little cities written on the walls of the houses, the Satyug is coming, when everybody will be happy. There is a story in Ramayana about it. Sita asked Rama that some people, their houses get damaged and so many problems are there. Can you not in your kingdom make such things that all houses will be perfect? Rama said that is not possible. No, you can make it. So Rama made every house perfect. Then the masons and carpenters complained, they have no job. They have job only when the house gets damaged. So see, mutual dependence, contradiction. We hear every day many explanations and are told that in the long run all will be good, taking it for granted that this is possible. This is not possible, but argument Swami is showing. So says, taking it for granted that this is possible, why should there be this diabolical way of doing good? Why cannot good be done through good instead of through these diabolical methods? The descendants of the human beings of today will be happy. But why must there be all this suffering now? This is no solution. There is no solution. This is Maya. And then Swami shows this is impossible. Again we often hear that it is one of the features of evolution, that it eliminates evil. That is only in the mind. And this evil being continually eliminated from the world, at last only good will remain. That is very nice to hear. And it panders to the vanity of those who have enough of this world's goods, who have not a hard struggle to face every day, and are not being crushed under the wheel of this so-called evolution. Take this communism, what we heard about it. All men are equal. And if some people refuse to become equal, move the bulldozer over them, make everybody equal. It is very good and comforting indeed to such fortunate ones. The common herd may suffer, but they do not care. Let them die, they are of no consequence. Very good. Yet this argument is fallacious from beginning to end. It takes for granted, in the first place, that manifested good and evil in this world are two absolute realities. In the second place, it makes a still worse assumption that the amount of good is an increasing quantity and the amount of evil is a decreasing quantity. So if evil is being eliminated in this way by what they call evolution, there will come a time when all this evil will be eliminated and what remains will be all good. Very easy to say. But can it be proved that evil is a lessening quantity? In the medical science again, there is a branch of allopathy, I do not remember the name, to study the diseases produced by medicines. Take for instance the man who lives in a forest, who does not know how to cultivate the mind, cannot read a book, has not heard of such a thing as writing. If he is severely wounded, he is soon all right again. While we die if we get a scratch. So we have progressed. And when we have progressed mentally, physically we have become weak. Machines are making things cheap, making for progress and evolution, but millions are crushed, that one may become rich. While one becomes rich, thousands at the same time become poorer and poorer, and whole masses of human beings are made slaves. That way it is going on. The animal man lives in the senses. If he does not get enough to eat, he is miserable. Or if something happens to his body, he is miserable. In the senses, both his misery and his happiness begin and end. As soon as this man progresses, as soon as his horizon of happiness increases, his horizon of unhappiness increases proportionately. The man in the forest does not know what it is to be jealous, to be in the law courts, to pay taxes, to be blamed by society, to be ruled over day and night by the most tremendous tyranny that human diabolism ever invented. These all the rulers of the world, all those who rule the people, Swamiji is describing them, which pries into the secrets of every human heart. He does not know how man becomes 1,000 times more diabolical than any other animal, with all his vain knowledge and with all his pride. Thus it is that as we emerge out of these senses, we develop higher powers of enjoyment, and at the same time we have to develop higher powers of suffering too. Mental diseases are going to, in the world, in America, maximum lunatic asylums are there. Maximum suicides are there. Why? Because it is a highly developed country. The nerves become finer and capable of more suffering. In every society, we often find that the ignorant common man, when abused, does not feel much, but he feels a good thrashing. But the gentleman cannot bear a single word of abuse. Finer senses have become. Happiness has increased. Misery has increased. He has become so finely nerved. Misery has increased with his insusceptibility to happiness. This does not go much to prove the evolutionist case. As we increase our power to be happy, we also increase our power to suffer. And sometimes I am inclined to think that if we increase our power to become happy in arithmetical progression, we shall increase on the other hand our power to become miserable in geometrical progression. Those who are non-mathematics students, let me explain a little. Arithmetic progression means common difference. Like 3 plus 3, 6, another 3, 9, another 3, 12, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 is one arithmetical progression. But 3 into 3, 3, 9, 27, 81 will be that progression. It will jump like anything. And Swamiji has used this many times in his lectures. Happiness increases in arithmetical progression, misery increases in geometrical progression. Desires grow. I have lived with the poorest students, 400 of them for 10 years. They wanted the TV. And then there are advertisements on the TV. So one day one boy comes and asks me, I want to purchase a saw. What is a saw? A small stick and cotton rolled on it. Cost 1 rupee. I said, you take any stick and take cotton worth 2 paisa and wrap it. Because I will tell some more funny things now. Consumerism, upabhoktavad, is creating desires in people. Globalization, finding global market for your product. So names are deluding always. This is the commerce. Where do we go? It is Maya. It is a statement of fact. We have no solution because we cannot understand the question itself. We who are progressing know that the more we progress, the more avenues are open to pain as well as to pleasure. And this is Maya. Law courts cases, in India and everywhere, thousands and lakhs of cases are pending. Quarrel between one person and the other for some 1 rupee or 2 rupees. That is the world. Thus we find that Maya is not a theory for the explanation of the world. We are not explaining. It is simply a statement of facts as they exist. That the very basis of our being is contradiction. That everywhere we have to move through this tremendous contradiction, that wherever there is good, there must also be evil. And wherever there is evil, there must be some good. Wherever there is life, death must follow as its shadow. What is life? You take a candlestick and you ignite it. Unless you ignite it, you cannot say that the candlestick is living. And the moment it starts living, it starts dying. That is life. And everyone who smiles will have to weep, and vice versa. The sukha dukkha will always alternate. And people earn money by fraudulent methods, and one day they are caught. People who suffer, believing that goodness is virtue, they suffer. This is life. nor can the state of things be remedied. We may verily imagine that there will be a place where there will be only good and no evil, where we shall only smile and never weep. Remember the Ramayana story. All the masons, all the mechanics, all the skilled labor will lose their job if all the houses are perfect. If the houses are not perfect, they will get damaged, rain will come. So suffer either this or that. We may verily imagine that there will be a place where there will be only good and no evil, where we shall only smile and never weep. People thought that going to heaven will solve our problems. And the Sankhya philosophers found that there is a very big evil in the heaven. Atishayena yukta. Example, Indra is the king of gods. But people give more respect to Brihaspati, the teacher of gods. So Indra feels jealous. And Brihaspati has the greatest honor. But he feels jealous because Indra has more power. This is heaven. This is impossible in the very nature of things, for the conditions will remain the same. Wherever there is I will tell another story. One Punjabi boy, born in America, his father died of a motor accident. And he has come to India. And he tells me they have found now air cushions and rubber cushions, and so even there is a collision, 160, 150 miles per hour, it will not cause death. Then I asked, will it not cause death? No, it will cause, because people will drive at 300 miles now. So, this is Maya. Wherever there is a power of producing a smile in us, there lurks the power of producing tears. Wherever there is a power of producing happiness, there lurks somewhere the power of making us miserable. Who is happy in this world, you see? I will tell a funny story. People ask some great people, like Arnold Toynbee or others, will it be nice if you are given eternal life? First Toynbee said, oh, it will be nice because I have to do more research in history. But then he said, but there is a problem. Every year I will have to fill income tax returns. So the headache will never go. He is not afraid of paying the income tax. To fill the income tax returns is the headache in every country. Thus the Vedanta philosophy is neither optimistic nor pessimistic. It does not say all is bad. Never, never, never. Contradiction. If you are happy, you will have to suffer. If you are suffering, you will be happy. Again you will have to suffer. This is not pessimism. This is not that world is full of evils. About this happiness and misery, I have my own thought. In the world outside, there is neither pleasure nor pain. Happiness is our real nature. In the world, there is a shadow of happiness, expectation of happiness. And if we try to catch a shadow, what comes in our hand? Hi, alas, nothing, nothing, nothing. That is misery. Happiness in expectation. Result? Nothing. That is misery. That is how the world is going on. In itself, there is neither happiness nor misery. Shadows is the world. Thus the Vedanta philosophy is neither optimistic nor pessimistic. It voices both these views and takes things as they are. It admits that this world is a mixture of good and evil, happiness and misery, and that to increase the one must of necessity increase the other. There will never be a perfectly good or bad world, because the very idea is a contradiction in terms. The great secret revealed by this analysis is that good and bad are not two cut and dried separate existences. There is not one thing in this world of ours which you can label as good and good alone, and there is not one thing in the universe which you can label as bad and bad alone. This very same phenomena which is appearing to be good now may appear to be bad tomorrow. The same thing which is producing misery in one may produce happiness in another. Example, the fire that burns the child may cook a good meal for a starving man. The same nerves that carry the sensations of misery carry also the sensations of happiness. The only way to stop evil, therefore, is to stop good also. There is no other way. If you eat what you like, disease follows. If you do not eat what you like, misery follows. Where will you go? To stop death, we have to stop the life also, explained by the help of the candle. Life without death and happiness without misery are contradictions, and neither can be found alone, because each of them is but a different manifestation of the same thing. That candle example was best. It is living, that means it is dying. It cannot live without inviting death. What I thought to be good yesterday, I do not think to be good now. When I look back upon my life and see what were my ideas at different times, I find this to be so. Swamiji telling you an example now. At one time, my ideal was to drive a strong pair of horses. At another time, I thought if I could make a certain kind of sweetmeat, I should be perfectly happy. Later, I imagined that I should be entirely satisfied if I had a wife and children and plenty of money. Today, I laugh at all these ideals as mere childish nonsense. Swamiji has given progressively higher ideas, and by the same analogy says all this is nonsense. In novels or in books of fiction, one boy and one girl, they love each other, they are struggling, and at the end they marry each other, and then the story ends by telling they lived happily ever after. Has it happened anywhere in life? I will tell a funny story. When we were in school, one of our teachers got married. He had taken some leave, so when he came back to school, we all congratulated him. He said, "What has happened to congratulate?" He uttered a Hindi couplet. भूल गए राग रंग भूल गए चौकड़ी तीन चीज याद है नून तेल लकड़ी. They have forgotten fun and frolic, they have forgotten their friend circle. What they remember now is that salt, wood and oil. Nowadays wood is replaced by gas and the gas prices are increasing. Salt, oil and food. That is what one has to remember, which one did not have previously. That is life, that is Maya. Now the energy or power in the world is limited. So if we spend now, then they shout. Climate change, you should do something for climate change. You should suffer. Climate will change. You cannot stop nature from changing it. The Vedanta says there must come a time when we shall look back and laugh at the ideals which make us afraid of giving up our individuality. We are afraid of giving up our individuality. And when we evolve spiritually, we will find that we have no individuality at all. Each one of us wants to keep this body for an indefinite time, thinking we shall be very happy. But there will come a time when we shall laugh at this idea. For some people, old age is a bigger problem. To live a vegetating life, senile life. Now if such be the truth, we are in a state of hopeless contradiction. Neither existence nor non-existence, neither misery nor happiness, but a mixture of them. What then is the use of Vedanta and other philosophies and religion? And above all, what is the use of doing good work? We shall take certain matters in the next time. Let us revise in the mind we have learned today that life is a contradiction in terms in every sphere: economic, society, politics, everywhere. Life is always a mixture of good and evil. And if the good increases and evil decreases, has never happened. If the good increases, evil increases. If happiness increases, misery increases. If physically happiness is there, physical misery is there. If mental happiness we get, mental misery we get. When there was no society, there was no jealousy. Now social complications come. So what is this life? It is not, Vedanta is not telling us to be pessimist at all, in the worldly sense. No. Understand that life is a contradiction in terms, that much. That is the statement of fact. What to do, Swamiji is not told up till now. What to do, Swamiji will tell in the third lecture on Maya and freedom. How we can go beyond this Maya. So this world is a statement of fact. Remember again, the main mistake, consciousness and matter, they cannot combine, and yet life is a combination of consciousness and matter. And that has produced all the contradictions in life. Start from a mother nursing the child, start from a wife loving the husband, start from two friends loving each other, expectations grow. And when expectations are not fulfilled, we feel frustration. That is life. If there is no friendship, there is no joy. If there is friendship, quarrel is there. So where do we go? How to find a solution? That Swamiji will tell later on. But Swamiji is telling us here, understand what is life. And life is a contradiction in terms. Life itself is a mixture of truth and untruth, the reality and the unreal, and in every sphere of life this pervades. If happiness be the measure, are we happy now? Has it added to our happiness, the modern progress? Yes, it has added our happiness, and simultaneously it has added our misery. When a nation grows, it tries to strike at other nations. If you succeed, he dies. If he succeeds, you die. This is the word. And as Swamiji has said, animal lives upon plants, man upon animals, and man upon each other. continuous struggle to supremacy goes on in life. And the resources being limited, where it will end? Quarrel. So, this is life has to be understood. Everywhere this is life has to be understood. Now if you forget that, if we are intoxicated by the field in which we live, if you are obsessed by some field, then death will come and they will understand it has ended. So, obsession is not the solution, forgetting the problems is not the solution. We have to understand this problem, and then how to come out of it is a very different topic which Swamiji will take later on. So today we conclude with this horrible picture. It appears but not pessimistic, because joy will always be there. And the moment we become hilarious, misery will always be there. And so, this is life, contradiction in terms. This Swamiji is brilliantly painting. Shankara has only hinted. And Swamiji is practically showing in every field of life, in every aspect of life, that there is happiness and misery together. So, this is the lesson Swamiji is telling today. We have to feel this. Om Paratatve Sadalino Ramakrishna Samagyaya Yo Dharma Sthapana Rato Viresham Tam Namamyam. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Om